delighted to be here today, but I hope I don't disappoint you. And I say that truly from the bottom of my heart, because I am not going to talk about what I thought I was going to talk about. I had prepared this since June. I knew exactly how to make you laugh, how to make you cry, how to push all your buttons, how to make you go home feeling empowered and wanting to do something great. And then I got in a cab at 5 o'clock in the morning yesterday to come here. And my taxi driver asked me what I did. And I kind of stopped in my tracks because I wasn't quite awake. You know, it's 5 o'clock in the morning and you're not ready to have a conversation necessarily yet with a stranger, but I was curious to see what he was going to say. So he looks at me through the mirror as he's driving, and he says, "Oh, of course, you're a model." Very old model, yes, that's me. "You're a singer." "No, can't sing a note." "Oh, you must be a basketball player." Sorry to disappoint. None of the above. Now, of course, I had to ask him why he thought that I did those things, and he said, "Well, look at you." I said, "Indeed, I do. Whether I want to or not, I have to look at myself and challenge myself on an ongoing basis." And that's when I realized that the conversation I had had the day before, the conversation that stuck in my mind and wouldn't allow me to sleep, even though I knew I had to rest to be able to be with you today, it just stayed there and it bothered me. Now, I'm referring to a conversation that I had with a very close friend of mine, and we were working on a white paper for PricewaterhouseCoopers. And we were thinking about technology, and I said, "I'm going to St. Louis, and I'm very excited about it." And so he goes online, and he saw that, indeed, I was speaking. And he saw the bio that was read before I came on stage today. And he said, "Juliette, what is up with you?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "I started on this TEDxStLouisWomen site, but now I'm just curious. I'm going through all the sites where your bio is posted, including LinkedIn and your own website, JuliettePowell.com, and you never mention the fact that you were Miss Canada. Why is that?" And I said, "You're right. It's probably because it's not relevant." He said, "What do you mean it's not relevant? It's part of who you are. It's part of what gave you your start." And let me contextualize that for you. So when I was a teenager, I had an amazing boyfriend who really believed in me, and we used to do math together. That's how we met, actually. He was my math tutor, and I got very excited about math because of the interactions that we had. And so when he said to me that a friend of his had entered a pageant and come in second because of the way that she looked in terms of her race, it bothered me. It really bothered me to my core. And it bothered me because I didn't want to believe that I live in a world in which I can't do anything that I want to do. So I decided I was going to do something about it. I had never even watched a beauty pageant in my life. At the time, I was studying mechanical engineering. And that I was still in high school, but my teacher had gotten me a summer assistantship to study mechanical engineering. So it was all the more important for me because it was the first time that somebody actually believed in me outside of my mom. So I enter the pageant with this thing in mind. Of course I could win if I really want to. At the same time, I'm not taking it very, very seriously because I'm trying to keep up with school while I'm doing the pageant. And next thing I know, ladies and gentlemen, the next Miss Canada, Juliette Powell. And I'm like, and if you ever watch the video of this, I freeze. I freeze. Because at that moment, I understood that my entire life trajectory, in fact, had changed. I had signed a contract, and for a year, I had to be this person, and I didn't know what that meant. Well, I can tell you the press went crazy in Canada. They went absolutely gaga. There had never been anybody that looked like me that represented Canada. So great. I had somehow broken the race barrier. And at the same time, there were other press that were saying, well, wait a minute now. You might have kind of made this whole idea about gender equality even more challenging for your generation of women and the women to come. And that really bothered me. So I spent the next 20 years of my life using technology to completely reinvent myself. And never a word about the very motor that made me take chances in technology, that made me want to build companies, that made me want to understand how social data influences people around the world, and how big data in turn uses that social data as fuel for artificial intelligence and all of its predictive capabilities. The very thing that got me started is the very thing I never share. And so when my friend brought this to my attention, he followed up with, is it because you're ashamed? And I really, really, really stopped. I really wondered, am I ashamed? And if I am ashamed, why would I be ashamed? Is it because that I've bought into the notion that someone who is considered to be physically attractive can't possibly be intelligent? I don't think so. Obviously not. Obviously not. But something even more insidious had happened. In all of my time fighting to make sure that I was lucky enough to be one of the few visible minorities, one of the few women to be inside of boardrooms advising them on research and development, on what they should be investing in, on what they should be thinking about, on where we could possibly go if we co-create the future together. And when I say this, I don't just mean in terms of the corporations that hire me, but rather in terms of all of us, because that's what I really, really believe in. So I spent all of this time investing in those ideas and acting upon them, and yet somebody who knows me incredibly well put a light on something that I was completely blind to, my own conscious or unconscious bias. Now, all of us have unconscious bias, all of us. And when you think about it, you might even find your own. So I was backstage earlier, and I was speaking with some of the other presenters today, and I was speaking with some of the ladies during lunch as well, those that arrived earlier. And I asked them, what's your unconscious bias? And some said, intelligence. When I look at somebody, depending on how they present themselves, I will judge whether they're as intelligent as me, more intelligent than me, less intelligent than me. My bias might be tall people. And in fact, in society, there have been many studies that have shown that tall people are perceived to be more powerful, therefore the leader of the group. One of the men said to me before I came on stage that perhaps the unconscious bias in society is that women are passive. I can tell you I'm a lot of things passive, I am not. So what is this collective bias that we have, all of us, right? Why is it that I've been fighting against the idea of living in a man's world, and yet I'm perpetuating it by hiding from the consequences of being attractive? That makes no sense. What am I doing? And so I have no real answers for you. And I'm all the more embarrassed that because I work using social data and artificial intelligence, and that I do sit in the boardrooms, and that I write thought leadership articles for large corporations that, get inspired, and that it makes them act in certain ways, which affects all of us, because multinationals, whether we like it or not, affect all of us. What have I been doing? Well, again, on the good side, this is wonderful. It has pushed me to try to surpass myself. And on the negative side, I've perpetuated so many unconscious biases throughout my career that I'll never be able to see the repercussions of them because I don't know what they are. So I'm really thankful to my friend on one end, and I'm really thankful to the taxi driver on the other end, who just reinforced the fact that, of course I must be this, or of course I must be that, according to the way that I look. But I don't buy it anymore. I had to be conscious of it. But now that I am, I need to start examining every little bit of my life. Every time I make a decision, every time I say something to someone, is that really what I think? Or am I just toting the social line, the thing that we all say to each other because it's easier, it's faster? And that's how unconscious bias works, right? We've got this framework, this pattern in our minds of the way that the world works. And we don't have to think about it on an ongoing basis because we know we've got mental models of how things work. But if your mental model diminishes you or a part of you or shames you, I think it's about time that we change some of our mental models. So I'm tired of drinking the Kool-Aid. I've always wanted to be seen for who I am. But the truth is that I am still exactly the same person that I was when I won the Miss Canada pageant. I'm still the same person who wants to make a positive difference in the world. In this particular case, I use technology, I use journalism, I use conversations, I use connection. But I'm still the same girl. So why is it then that none of my clients know that I've been Miss Canada? Why is it that on my own website, I can't talk about it comfortably? Well, the key is yet. Because as I talk about it more, as I think about it more, I'm changing the pattern, the modeling that I've adopted despite myself, the patriarchal model of what life is about, of our place within mankind. Is it really about mankind or is it about humanity? One of the reasons I'm bringing this up is not just to embarrass myself in front of a large audience, but because I also realize that not only do we all do it, but when we do it, remember those social data trails that are feeding the algorithms, that are feeding the prediction of what we like in terms of our movies, in terms of our purchases, in terms of our mates, right? We are feeding those things using our social trails, the little crumbs of our texts, of our tweets, of our Instagram photos, all the details that we don't think about because it's automatic and it's easy and it's quick and it's fun. So we're spreading our unconscious biases every single time we communicate. And therefore we're training, like we train our children, the algorithms and the artificial intelligence bots with those biases. And again, they're serving us the predictions and they're serving us the movies and they're saying that more and more, right? Different fields will become automated and we will have more customized services based on our preferences. But if our preferences aren't actually based on what we believe in, but rather what we've bought into, that's a really scary, self-perpetuating circle. And that's why I'm here today to share my discovery of my own unconscious bias with you so that you can start thinking about yours and that we actually can start co-creating the world that we want to be in together, that we'd love to see our daughters and our sons in together moving forward. So I encourage all of you to think about that and to think about who in your life knows you really, really well and is honest enough and capable enough to tell you what your particular bias might be. And the fact that you don't know about it, it's probably true. And then I encourage you to go get a second person This time, not necessarily somebody who thinks the same way as you, perhaps doesn't even agree with you, doesn't even have to like you. That person should tell you what your unconscious bias is. And if you don't have anybody like that, just jump in an Uber, jump in a cab, start chatting. Thank you.